Sir, the event today was kind of a culmination of 30 years. Is the lesson of this that the state and the government actually need to get involved sometimes to spur growth?
I think the lesson of today is that if all segments of society are not fully engaged and focused, progress won't happen. You need the state to play a very real, not just partnership role, but leadership role in these things. You need the local jurisdiction to play not just a partner, but a leadership role. And you need the private sector. You need every sector of society to understand the assignments and be able to do their job in order to make things happen. And I think that's part of the beauty of what we saw today is you saw a collection of the community together. Everybody was required in order to make today happen.
What would you say to somebody who says, hey, if there's a business case for this to be made, the private sector would fund it? That's the way the market system works.
I would say that that's actually not. The way it works is you always have governmental supports to, in some cases, help to underwrite. In some cases, actually help to remove regulatory barriers and able to foster that kind of economic growth. All of this is done with partnership. And I was proud that when we came on board that, within our budget, I said, we're going to invest $7.5 million in order to make this convention center happen. That wasn't just because the capital was necessary and required, but it helped to show that we were willing to put skin in the game, and then that helped to invite the private sector to come on board as well.
Talk a little bit, if you can, about the role that Fort Detrick has played in Frederick's economic development.
I mean, it's huge. I mean, you talk about some of the assets that we have here in Frederick and just in the state of Maryland. I would put the assets in the state of Maryland against anyone against anyone in the country. The problem is that oftentimes as a state, we've been asset rich and strategy poor. And so really what this does and what you're seeing in Frederick and how it's able to leverage Fort Detrick is it's able to say, if you have an asset here, let's make sure we're creating the right kind of work pipelines. Let's make sure we're having the right kind of investment strategy, because what Detrick represents is actually something that's leverageable. And I really like the approach that Frederick is taking to be able to support that work.
What do you mean when you say it's leverageable?
It means that you have an asset that people will come to. That people find attractive, that you'll find other businesses and small businesses that will feed off of it. You'll have community members that know that they can find employment there, so you'll have an education system that creates a pipeline for people to be able to work at Fort Detrick. And so it is about, when I say leverageable, it means that it's not just about what it produces, it's about what it prompts and what it motivates other people to produce around it.
What would you say the secret to success of Frederick is? Is there any one thing, or is it a million different small things?
Well, I think you have a community that works together. And I'm a big believer that partnership produces progress, and nothing else ever will. This is a community that believes in partnership. And it's why I've been so excited to work with this community in the way that we have. We spent a lot of time in Frederick, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the fact that, in addition to the $7.5 million that we put towards this new convention center, that we've also put over $2 million towards the School of the Deaf, that we've also put over $500,000 into the VFW hall that we have here in Frederick. This is a place that believes in partnership, it's a place that believes in community, and it's a place that supports its people.
What do you think is replicatable here for other cities and towns, not only in Maryland, but across America?
I think you need to work together. And I think particularly right now, it's what people are asking for, right? In this time of this political divisiveness and political vitriol and this back and forth that takes place, people forget that the only people that suffer when we are bickering back and forth are the people. They're the only ones who get hurt. And so when you find a community that says, listen, we're willing to put all the childish, petty things to the side and to be able to say, we're going to work with anybody and everybody who wants to create measurements of economic growth for our community, that's what makes community successful.
Difficult to do, though, if people are downtrodden, if you have a population that's not trusting because feel like they've been screwed by society.
I mean, a lot of the skepticism that people feel, frankly, it's justified. I say I don't come from a political family. In fact, as anything, I come from a family that's pretty skeptical about politics. That's skeptical that society has really worked to their benefit. And their skepticism is real and it's fair. I get it. I also know that the people who have historically made society better are the ones who didn't ignore their skepticism, but they're the ones who said, but let the skepticism be your companion and not your captor. Let it be the thing that continues to motivate you to know that things have to get better, but don't let it be the thing that forces you to essentially opt out. And that's the thing I want people to know, is that even in our greatest frustrations, for those who are willing to lean in and help make society better, you have a pretty high probability of success.
What do you see the future of Frederick as?
Growth and inclusive growth. I see this as not just being one of the core economic engines for the state of Maryland, but I see the future of Frederick being one of the core cultural engines for the state of Maryland, where we can not only have economic growth that's driven from leveraging Fort Detrick and leveraging the community center or conference center, but I see it as a place where artists and entrepreneurs and musicians and educators and first responders, that everybody lives together, understanding that this is a community that's worth fighting for.
How do you manage growth and still not displace the people who had been here?
I think the best way to make sure that you're growing wisely is by making sure that you're involving the community in part of the conversation. I think sometimes, even historically, not just in Maryland, but around the country, is when you've watched growth that actually triggered massive displacement, it's because those conversations were being had without the community. I think if you can actually show the community that they are actually a part of the conversation and not just a subject of the conversation, I think you're going to have a better chance of having a growth where they see themselves as part of that solution set and not as a consequence of that growth.
Follow-up question, what role do data centers play in this?
I think they're going to play an important role. I think when we think about the future of Maryland, we've got to focus on energy supply. It means we've got to strengthen the grid. It means we need to diversify our energy assets. It means we need to make sure that we're always taking care of our ratepayers and our taxpayers. And it means that we need to be inviting for new industries and growth industries. I introduced a bill last year called the Critical Infrastructure Act, which focused on new industries that we could support, to include data centers. And so I am bullish on what these industries can do and why Maryland can be a home of these type of growth industries. I just know it needs to be done smartly and wisely and in concert with the community.